Welcome to the first round of our 3 vs 3 team tournament. We have Milo on Mono Fire, and he opens with a selfie backup, getting back a Terra. And we have Ryan on Cat 4. And this should be a fun and exciting matchup between two unique decks. Looks like Ryan doesn't have many forwards in hand, unfortunately, other than Shantoto. So it's not the ideal opening he was looking for. He's going to start with a Cecil, which is a solid boss card for that deck. It enables other crystals to be played, but unfortunately, Milo has the Amaterasu in hand to stop it. And no crystals and no forwards. So Milo's in a good position at the moment. He can go in a number of different ways. Looks like he's going to start with the Goblin. The Goblin package is pretty consistent and been good for fire for a while now. It's good at being able to search for more goblins, or backup Princess Goblin. So just being able to extend and it looks like have a bit of a board setup with Kuchaspel now. And Ryan still does not look like he drew any backups that are playable at this moment. He looks like he might have to go onto defensive. He pays 4 for Glaciella, and her ability goes through and gets a crystal. So at this point, you almost have to go on defensive. And Milo with a quick turn and 2 more backups. Oh my goodness. Culinarian, that's the free backup when you have 3. Ryan goes on defensive like we thought. Looks like he has a backup now with a Tyro, but that he would need to pitch nearly his whole hand to pay for that. And it's good to have the flexibility just in case you need to respond to something. Fortunately, Milo's still in the driver's seat with 4 backups on that optimal play. And now he's playing Bernhilder in an attempt to deal 5k to Glaciella. He can also finish it off with the Goblin, should he choose. Ryan does have a Mistdragon in hand, I believe. I'm guessing he's debating whether he wants to use it. But the Kuchaspel would stop it if he were to use the Mistdragon's second ability. But he could also cancel it. And he chooses not to, and instead just to let it go through. Not a bad play. It's good to save the Mistdragons for Amaterasus later in key situations. Unfortunately, he's down 4 backups to none with only 1 point of damage. So, it looks like he was able to draw into a Lena, and at least he's got 1 backup on the board. Maybe he can make a slow comeback. Luckily, Mono Fire does require some setup, and as we see, Milo just plays a single Goblin. And this Goblin is an older one. It can become a forward, 5k, and deal 1k on swing. It's not terrible, but it's good because it cannot easily be killed. And I think in this meta, having lots of monsters is ideal because there's a lot of forward removal, but not nearly as much monster removal. So there's some inherent protection there. What will Ryan do? Looks like he's going to go for the Tyro on curve. And searching for, I'm guessing, a Cat 4 card. Possibly Rosa or Cecil. Those would both be good plays. And it looks like he's going for the Rosa. The Rosa is great in this deck because it can set up all your other forwards by being a color fixer for the deck. And also it is a draw engine if you play it first and then play Cecil next. So there's kind of an order of operations there. And it looks like he ends his turn. Milo is going to play Shin, which is always incredibly lethal at damage 3, but more importantly, all his forwards will now deal an extra 1k, which can be pretty significant in many matchups. But most importantly, it's a monster, so it's not really able to be affected by Shantoto. Guessing Ryan's gonna play the Rosa that he picked up. Yes, he does. And that's a good start. And he plays the follow-up Cecil, which is great. He can take the point of damage and draw a card. Oh, he hits an EX Burst. Tyro. He can go in a number of different directions at this point. Porum, possibly. Theodore, Hooded Man. Not sure which would be the best in this scenario. Knowing that you have the Earth Cecil on board and that you can crack it for the Wind Cecil, it might be a good idea to have a 4-drop body to play on board when you need it. And indeed, he does go for a Theodore. That's an old one. We haven't seen that one in a long time. Apparently, you duel 2 forwards, Rosa and Cecil, and you can play him from the break zone. Or it might just be any Cecil on Rosa. So that's a great ability, being able to play it from the break zone and have it act as an additional hand. Indeed, he does discard it to end his turn. Not bad. He's got 2 forwards, 2 backups. Milo's got 4 backups, so a slight advantage. But if Milo can't deal with this board, he's gonna take some more damage quickly. And he plays a Mont Blanc. That's a new one, and deals 5k or 8k if he has 5 or more fire characters, which he does. And he's targeting the Cecil. Looks like he's going to try and force Ryan to use the Cecil ability and go for another Cecil. But it's not enough to finish it off, unfortunately for him. Oh, Rain on 5 backups. It's got a reduced cost, and it hits on entry and on attack for 1,000 times the number of backups. So he's going to target the Rosa in this case. And Ryan's going to respond by trying to cheat out the new Water Cecil and perhaps protect the Rosa. We'll see. He does have 1 crystal on board. Oh, but it looks like Milo has the Amaterasu to gain the crystal. That would be enough to kill that Cecil unless he saves it with the crystal. Unfortunately, he has only 1 crystal and not 2. So Ryan won't be able to protect both the Cecil and the Rosa, unfortunately. The smarter play, I think, would be to protect the Cecil, and he does. The Cecil is the engine for this deck, so it is important to try and keep it alive as long as possible in order to generate crystals every turn. And he'll still get the draw for the Rosa trigger when a Cecil enters the board. you are able to draw a card as long as Rosa's there. And since the Rosa was on board when the Cecil came out, the draw still goes through. Cecil is larger than the Rain, so it would be safe to attack, and the Goblin doesn't really pose a threat. Unfortunately, Milo's sitting at 5 backups and 3 cards in hand. He's got his board fairly well set up at this point. Ideally, you'd want to try and catch up with and match backups, but I don't know what backups he might have. Oh, it looks like he had a King Tycoon, which could search another Lena, which would not be too helpful at this point. Or could search for a Ferris. But he opts for the Hooded Man. That's a strong card that was in the older Category 4 package, a staple that allows you to get back one Category 4 forward from your break zone added to your hand that's not named Hooded Man. Which card will you choose? Perhaps Rosa? Yeah, Rosa it is. And he'll get the crystal for the Hooded Man entry and the Cecil ETB. So out comes the Rosa that he just picked up. Looks like Ryan's asking about the Djinn and the Goblin. They would go together should he choose to make the Goblin a forward to deal 5k plus an additional 1k on, or that might just be on attack. But 5 plus 1 from the Djinn would be 6. The Cecil's still bigger at 8, so it's a safe swing. And Djinn doesn't become active until 3 damage, so holding him at 2 damage is probably the best strategy at this point. And he passes turn, and Hooded Man will reactivate all his Cat 4 forwards. A pretty strong and underrated ability, especially with Cecil being able to pump all his forwards should he acquire. Uh-oh, and Milo has enough to pay for the Demon. Which will he go for? Unfortunately, you can't choose categories, and all the jobs are different. May he want to force Ryan to use his last crystal? Perhaps he could remove his break zone in the process. It sounds like he's going to choose Paladin and to deal 8k because 7 from the Demon and 1 from the Djinn. Oh, I'm sorry, 8,000 from the Demon and 1 from Djinn. So that would be just enough should he choose to pump it up with the crystal. And Ryan will counter with Mist Dragon, using its second ability to dole a forward of his and to protect him from all damage. That's a pretty good play. So it protects him for 1 turn from the Demon, at least. If he's able to live through this, he should be able to generate some more crystals and perhaps mount a comeback. He's definitely got the advantage in terms of forwards, but Rain on attack is able to shoot down the Rosa unless he chooses to save it, which Ryan does to make Rosa unchoosable, I suppose. But he elects to take the damage, and it's an EX burst. Dorthan. He's able to get any card from his deck. Character or summon. Which card would be ideal in this situation? The demon does pose a large problem. He goes for Porum. Porum is definitely a very good card, but the demon is a looming threat if he's not able to remove it from the game, or from the board at least. It's still Milo's turn. Oh, and now he passes with that single attack. Ryan's on board. He's got a full grip of cards and advantage in a number of forwards. If he's able to get by the demon, he could potentially swing for some significant damage. Although those monsters do pose an issue, especially the Jin being able to have first strike and deal an extra 1k of damage at damage 3. Ideally, you could be able to deal with the monsters and a demon and go from 2 to 4 or 5 damage, but that's not an easy task. He does have the Porum, which does blink 5 drop forwards or lower. Unfortunately, Rain and Demon are unaffected. Looks like he'll play Theodore from the break zone. And he doled the Rosa and the Cecil, and out comes Porum. And he gets a crystal. That's once per turn, even though 2 came out. So he's definitely in the driver's seat in terms of forwards. Unfortunately, he was not able to deal with the demon, who can go wide unless he has a plan, perhaps an Amaterasu or something up his sleeve. The Cat 4 forwards are great at spamming the field. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of removal, but they are able to be boosted by the Cecil. And Milo goes to play the Terra, pitching the Salamander in order to try and get the Salamander back. Pierce's plan is to wipe the board with it. Oh, but Ryan counters with the Mist Dragon to remove his break zone. That's unfortunate for Milo, but the bigger problem still looms with the demon. Hopefully Ryan can have a plan to play through it. Okay, it looks like Milo plays the Luneth. That's a great card that during the attack phase, it can deal damage up to a number of fire characters on the field, and Milo does have quite a few. But looks like Ryan will blanket before going to combat. Smart play. Unfortunately, that demon is able to attack. Milo only has 1 card in hand, so he's trying to push now to make his advantage. Looks like Ryan does have a Shinryu in hand, so that could be a backup plan should his board get wiped. It looks like that's what's happening now. He's gonna allow that to go through. And another EX burst, a Hooded Man. Yeah, gotta love these decks that play all these EX bursts. And when you hit them, It's like a life vest. And he's able to recur another Cecil. That Cecil is key to this deck and keeping it onto the field. Looks like Rain's gonna go in for the attack and deal a lot of damage to the Hooded Man. Unfortunately, the Hooded Man will not survive. And now the Goblin's gonna go in for attack. But Ryan elects to trade with the Rain at least. But that's unfortunate as well, since Rain is now reduced costs and on 5 backups. Just reorganizing the playing field so it's easier to tell which are the forwards and which are the monsters, which is key when you have a Shinryu in hand. And Milo does have 3 more forwards, so he's able to play the Shinryu at reduced cost and do a tidal wave with that Shinryu in hand. So just search for some CP fodder, maybe a backup or a forward you could recur in the future. Looks like he's gonna go for EX Kane. Not a bad idea. It's low probability of hitting that, and he's already taken significant damage, so it's not really a card you want to play out of hand anyways. And there's the Tidal Wave Shinryu special. And Milo's gonna have to rebuild his board again. With that, Ryan passes. It's pretty even match. A lot of back and forth. Kind of what you expect from these two decks. Fire wants to gain incremental value, and there's an Alua to do just that. It's got haste, and it can dole a number of backups to deal damage on attack. So 3 times 3, that's 9. And the Goblin goes in for an attack. Ryan's now in a precarious position. There's 2 forwards, or I should say a Goblin and a forward. But for intents and purposes, that Goblin's been doing quite a bit of damage. He does have a single crystal. You could play a Glaciella again, or a Robel. It looks he's gonna go for the Robel and attempt to break the Luneth, or sorry, the Alua. That is a constant problem every turn, so it's a smart idea. Uh-oh. Damage 6, and now Susano coming on board. That is a tough call. This could be the game. I don't know if there's anything Ryan can do to stop it unless he has an Amaterasu, and he does not, unfortunately. That is the game.